Ditch your complex moral structures. This is the message of Zarathustra from the book Thus Spoke Zarathustra. What exactly does it mean? Who is Zarathustra? What are we talking about? Let's dive in. Zarathustra is a character from Friedrich Nietzsche book, a German philosopher from the late 19th century. The idea of Zarathustra is to come to the human beings and introduce us to the idea of the Übermensch. The Übermensch is basically the ultimate version of a human being. In this channel, I'm exposing and writing and talking about the whole book. This is the 5th chapter of the book. In this book, we'll talk about a chapter called Joys and Passion. The idea here is not to have complex moral structures. Now, what is complex for Zarathustra? Complex is having more than one virtue. Now, what is a virtue? A virtue is a belief that you are relying your life on and you will take your life on it with every step of the way you will have. This is not a dictionary actual term. This is what I'm telling to you. First of all, let's understand, why does Zarathustra think we need to get of our virtues and why we need to have only one? According to Nietzsche, when you have more than one virtue, you're basically being a heavy load on yourself and you're creating yourself with too many bearings, too many weight. Let's say you're trying to get over a bridge, right? In this metaphor, we're trying to become from a human being to an Übermensch. When you're trying to cross a bridge, you want to have as little weight as possible in order to walk faster, not to break the bridge, blah, blah, blah. So Zarathustra claims in his analogy that when you have more than one virtue, you will not be able to cross the bridge because it will be too heavy. This is a claim that I've been struggling myself with as well. I will be honest with you. And I think you can look at my face that I'm trying to explain exactly what I think about this. Because on one hand, having many virtues is very uncomfortable, right? Let's speak truthfully. I mean, look at Descartes, right? He's talking about how to be a good man, and he has a set of rules, and he even says that you cannot lie even if there is a murderer in the room and he's asking where is your friend. You must tell him where is your friend and let him kill him because you're not allowed to lie. Now this is like, come fucking on. Like, this is fucking stupid, right? Like, how can you say that you need to have so many virtues and you need to have so many structures of moral, so much so that you cannot lie to a murderer? On the second hand, is it right to have no values at all? Is it right to live only according to your value? I mean, if you have only one value, how can we build complete societies and very complicated societies and have rules and have whatnot? I mean, I think that the nature of this question is very simple. Do we trust humans enough to not kill, rape, steal, ruin each other apart without the set of hierarchies of rule and moral? And if we don't trust them, then we need to build hierarchies and moral. But can one person not have hierarchies and morals in himself, but only for the society? I think the first one is correct and the second one is not. What do I mean by it? We must have a set of rules for human society. I was myself an anarchist when I was a teenager because I had a sensitive heart, but I don't think that anarchism will ever work. I truly do think that we need rules, we need a set of rules, we need a police, we need those things because there are human beings out there that are either stupid enough to not understand how human relationships work and think that killing and taking from others will only grow themselves instead of taking themselves apart. And there, of course, are bad people and whatnot, and psychopaths, of course, and whatnot. But I think that a human being, if he's intelligent enough to comprehend the idea of not having complex moral structures and listening to the rules and to the laws of society is being laid on, he should. And for me, of course, the best example, if you're following my channel, you already know, is the army. I grew up in an army system-like country. Everybody must go to the army, everybody must serve the country, everybody must serve the army. We go for 3 years. It's a sign of respect, it's a sign of honor, especially if you're going to a very difficult job. It's a must-do. All my friends went to the army, and I didn't go. Not because I'm not a Zionist, I'm not, but that's not the reason. Not because I'm not a Zionist, not because I don't care about countries, and not because of all of those. The reason I didn't go is because I don't care. My value is only freedom. This is my main value. This is what I do for everything in my life. I want to become rich in order to be free. I want to travel the world. I don't want to have a girlfriend who's forcing me to stay in a place or forcing me to be only with her or whatever it is. Because my freedom is my main goal. And many times in my life, I had to ditch people and put people apart and get rid of people when I wanted my freedom to be implanted in my life. Going from me to the army was getting rid of my freedom. Of course, because I'm considered as the ownership of the IDF and blah, 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 but much so of the idea that I don't care enough about my country in order to ditch my freedom for 3 years. So I didn't go. And I think that this comes into place with many, many more places. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the army. What I am saying is have one virtue. Because the second you have one virtue, one moral, or one set of rules that you're following with all over your life, taking decisions will be much, much, much easier. It's like this book I read. It's a very good book. It's a 1,000 pages book. I really recommend you to read it. It's called Shantaram. And in this book, it's this guy, Australian guy, who was in prison for smuggling cocaine, for robbing a bank, and then he traveled to India and he met this huge mobster guy over there, and he asked him what's the difference between good and bad, and the mobster guy said the difference between good and bad is if this action brings the world to a better place, then it's good. If it doesn't, then it's bad. And then he asked him what is a better place, and he said according to what you think is a better place for the world, then this will be a good or bad decision. And I think that's completely true. If you're doing an action that you don't see serving your virtue and making your virtue better, do not go after it and do not try to follow it. Besides the philosophical implication and the freedom and the choosing your own virtues kind of thing, what is the idea of Zarathustra and why he wrote about it, and why I think it's not only about being an Ubermensch, it's also about creating a wealthy society as well. For me, the best idea would be to look at modern liberals. When we look at white modern liberals or white modern progressive, we look at a structure of people who are afraid, really, really, really afraid to not become moral. They always try to out-apologize, out-moral, out-humble other people. They are afraid of using one virtue, and they create very, 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 very complex set of rules and structure of what being a moral person is. And then they're choosing the moralism over the action itself. What do I mean by it? Let's take a look of Native Americans. It's a very good example. They are forcing themselves and building complete structures in books, in history, in universities about replacing the words from saying Indians to saying Native Americans. Now, this is a very mild example, but it shows the paradigm of thought of the moral. This is complete bullshit. Who cares? How will you call the person? As long as you don't act and try to improve the lives of those people, who gives a shit about how you call them? And if you decide to call them Native Americans instead of Indians, just go with it and let it be. Don't try to force it and overcomplicate it and make everything much more difficult on it and follow the moral much more than following the action itself. And the reason I think that I'm not able to put my point forward here, it's because it's not about something that you can put your finger on. I think it's much more of a feeling. You feel it is wrong. How do I feel it's wrong? Because I look at children. When you take a look at a kid, he doesn't think, should I wipe this friend's tears? Should I apologize to this friend? He doesn't think about it. He just does it because that's the simple and honest way of him to do it. That's how he is. He just does it. Maybe my point is, don't overcomplicate your moral structures, systems, and values. If you are feeling that something is a good thing to do, follow up on it without trying to think, oh, maybe I'm doing this and this wrong, maybe I'm offending this and this man. If you have something in your mind, speak it out. Don't try to overestimate and overcomplicate the thoughts and the feelings and the values of other people, simply because this not only will create a way of becoming, frozen in act, but it will also prevent the idea of having normal companionship and normal friendship between each other. Virtues are important for building huge societies. When we're talking about small company or your own self, don't have many virtues.